Hello there and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Joe Rimmer, joined today by Ian Doyle. How are we, Ian?
Okay, you?
It's been a long time since we podded together.
It is, yeah. We've not been podular very often.
We haven't.
We always have to make the most of these pods, don't we, Joe?
Yeah, we do. We're also joined today, and we are making the most of it today, because we are also joined by a man who's taken some time out of his male modelling schedule to join us. Our Business of Football writer, Dave Powell, is here. How are we, Dave?
I go to the gym a couple of times a week. You make a massive deal out of it.
You post topless pictures on your Instagram account.
Yeah, because I'm just doing it for posterity. I'm just it's the motivation. Anyway, I'm fine.
You could just post them to yourself. You didn't have to post them so all of us could see them.
I don't post. You're in my hidden people. You're in my hidden list.
What if our listeners or our viewers like what they see and they want to see more topless pictures of Dave Powell? Where can they find him on Instagram?
There's probably no.
You're not giving out your Instagram account.
Well, there's not really. There's no need for anyone to search those things out.
Okay, all right.
Really, I'll upload them all to my what's the people use now? Flickr.
What year is this? 2008.
MySpace. I'll put them on my MySpace channel later on. So.
That's great. Well, Dave, you are with us today because we're going to talk some big numbers today, and Ian and I can't handle those big numbers, so you'll handle them for us. Is that right?
I'll have a go.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's good. But before we start, a little thank you to our sponsors, NordVPN, or in the summer, it's Saily. So Saily is a new app that you can download now, brought to you by NordVPN. It gives you reliable and affordable internet access on your trip abroad. You can get affordable prices, avoid scams, protect your privacy, 24/7 support, and you can save on mobile data with Saily. You can also choose between 200 destinations with the Saily eSIM, and you'll have connection wherever needed. So download Saily in the App Store now and use code BLOODRED at checkout to get an exclusive 15% off your first purchase. And for more information, please go to the episode description box and click saily.com/bloodred. Some more housekeeping. It's been a while since I've been on the pod, actually. I haven't podded myself for a few weeks. So I've got a couple of your questions by email. If you'd like to send me a question, joe.rimmer@reachplc.com, and we will ask it on the pod. Otherwise, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us some stars.
Press the bell.
Or leave a question in the YouTube comments. So that was good. In the YouTube comments on the side, and I will try and get to them as we chat through the podcast. I'm just going to combine the questions. They're from Ronan and from Sanjay Mystery, who both emailed in to ask about. They're both confused about Isak and Ekitike, whose name I think I'm pronouncing properly. Ekitike. So we'll get into that. I mean, we will clear that up. Both of them are saying we're not sure. Both of them are asking they're not sure what the strategy is. Liverpool asking about Isak one day and pursuing Ekitike the next day. So we'll get into that. But before we do, another request. If you are sending me a question or by email, if you want to give your thoughts on anything Liverpool related, we'll be soon starting a Liverpool standalone each month, and we could do with some of your thoughts. So some of our regular listeners, please send in your thoughts to me via email, joe.rimmer@reachplc.com, and I will take them there, and they may appear in our Blood Red standalone that we'll be starting shortly. So more on that to come. Ian is shrugging his shoulders. I'll tell him later.
You might need to.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. It's been a busy couple of days for you, hasn't it?
Well, I was off yesterday.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. So was I, you can tell.
To B&M, some bargains. Yeah.
So if you were speaking...
What was some new glasses, so there was that.
Oh,
It's a treat.
Not cheap, 400. Well, I needed them.
On Tuesday.
That is.
Yeah.
I know we've read your player ratings.
Anyway, yeah.
You can come to this podcast. It's been a busy couple of days for Liverpool. News broke on Tuesday that they'd expressed an interest in Alexander Isak from Newcastle, and today they are progressing in a move for Hugo
Ekitike of Eintracht Frankfurt, the France under-21 international. He's 23 years of age. He started at Reims and he then went on to Paris Saint-Germain, where he spent 18 months, initially on loan, and then he moved to Frankfurt in January 2024.
Have you read his Wikipedia?
I didn't know any of this until about an hour ago. So that's why it's still fresh in my mind.
Can you talk us through the last couple of days then?
Yes.
People are confused. They want it clearing up. What happened? Why Liverpool seemed to make that approach for Alexander Isak? Is that one now off the table? Where are we going?
Okay.
Tell us more.
So you have to bear in mind the situation that Liverpool, obviously, even before recent tragic developments, needed a new striker. Darwin Núñez is almost certainly going to go. Federico Chiesa, we're pretty sure might go as well, but only if the money's right. And the added complication on top of this is that Luis Diaz is obviously they haven't agreed a new contract for him. He's got 2 years left, and if he's going to go, now might be the time for that to happen. And Bayern Munich and Barcelona are both interested. Bayern Munich had an offer rejected. That was on Tuesday as well, wasn't it? Yeah. Of about 67.5 million euros. I haven't got the currency converter in my head at the moment, but I think it's about 60 million quid. So there's all of that, a lot of spinning plates. And Liverpool have been looking at strikers for months.
Yeah.
For example, Isak, they've known for a long time that, well, everybody's known that he's a very good player, but they've known for a long time that they would quite like to go for him. But they also understand how difficult it is that Newcastle, to get him out of Newcastle, because Newcastle have always said all summer they're not going to sell him this summer, even if it was like 120, 130 million pounds, because they're now in a situation where they don't really need to sell. Would have been different last summer, of course. So the only way that's going to happen is if he agitates for a move. And obviously there was talk at the start of the summer that he was going to be offered a new deal. And if he has been offered it, he's not signed it at Newcastle. But we've seen in the past, we were talking about this before, about Luis Suarez. He signed a deal for Liverpool and then left a couple of weeks later. So these things don't necessarily tally or mean one thing. But for Liverpool, the way it gets interesting is that on Tuesday, Newcastle had an offer of 80 million euros for Ekitike, turned down by Frankfurt. And it was around about that time that the Isak stuff came out about Liverpool's interest, but also that they were also interested in Ekitike.
Yeah.
Now, is there a situation whereby they try to sign both of them? It could happen long term, but again, we were talking about this before, and these are two players who play in very specific positions. They're not like somebody like Diaz, who can play in a number of positions, even someone like Gakpo or even Salah or Núñez as well. These are players who built their reputations and are most effective playing down the middle. The way Liverpool play under Andre Slot, I nearly called him then, under Arne Slot, is they play one down the middle. Now, he always wants to have more than one option, but you're not going to spend 200 million combined on two players and knowing that most of the time only one of them is going to play. So it is interesting. It does look, our information is that Liverpool would quite like to sign Isak, but it's obvious that Newcastle don't want to let him go. Although they kind of compromise that a little bit by going in for Ekitike, because they're another one who only play one up front. So we don't know. We're not Newcastle reporters. We're not insiders at Newcastle, so we don't know what their thinking is. But what we can tell you is that Liverpool have approached Frankfurt. They are in talks. They haven't made an official bid yet at the moment, but I'd assume that's going to come very, very, very soon, because our latest information is that they've got given the green light to speak to the players' representatives and the player, and they've already agreed in personal terms with him. So it's a matter of them thrashing it out with Frankfurt. So it looks like there's no messing about. Liverpool, with Newcastle now off the table, we also heard that Manchester United came in for a late bid and he just went, I don't think so.
They have been, I think their interest is quite long term, isn't it? Because they have been linked in the past.
Yeah, United. Well, he went on the record as saying he's a United fan about 7 months ago, I think it was 7 or 8 months ago. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. First question when we interview him, are you sure he's for United? But yeah, so Liverpool, now it's on Liverpool to thrash out this deal with Frankfurt. Obviously, it's going to be more than 80 million euros by definition. I don't think it'll get up to 100 million euros, but it's going to be somewhere in between that, I'd have thought. And, you know, people talk about transfer sagas, and the Wirtz one was saying, oh, this has gone on forever. Well, it wasn't really by comparison to what there used to be in the past. But this one is moving incredibly quickly because we're obviously a lot nearer to the start of the season. And teams, selling teams and buying teams, want to get the squads sorted, because the more time you've got, certainly for Liverpool flying out to the Far East they fly out on Monday, don't they? Yeah, fly out there. They can get another new player in and know what the situation is going to be with a couple of others. And that's all about it, because then you're not wasting time either not having new players there or training and working with players who you know quite well are not going to be there by September the 2nd.
Dave, we'll talk figures shortly. But from your point of view, does this feel like a bit of a power play from Liverpool to try and push around maybe Newcastle at one point and then move for a player that Newcastle were clearly targeting.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just think that the door's been kicked open to them by Newcastle showing their hand with Ekitike in the first place. So they've thought, right, you've gone in for a player who's on our radar anyway. So that either means, are you both going to, as Ian said before, I mean, it's difficult to find a scenario where both of those players are on the pitch
They're at the same club,
at the same time. So you're either thinking Alexander Isak is there some concern over him signing a longer term deal here? So you're trying to forward plan by signing a 23-year-old who is a similar profile. And Liverpool sense the opportunity to do both. So it's, look, you either sell, either there's a deal to be done for Isak, or we'll just take off the table the option that you were going to do to try and replace him anyway. So either way, it feels like I imagine it's gone down horrifically in Newcastle because it is strong arming. But that's what happens because they're Premier League champions and they have the financial means to be able to pull off these kind of deals. But yeah, it's hard to imagine Newcastle finding a place for both of those because Ekitike, wherever he goes next, is going to want to play considerably because we're heading into a World Cup year in 2026 where so many of these kind of, I mean, he's not got a particularly strong French pedigree at senior.
Well, he hasn't played for the
senior
national team.
He's under 21, so he's probably thinking now with a big price tag and a year in the Premier League, this is going to be a very, very important move for him. So, but yeah, I think it's a testament probably to Liverpool's the way they approach the transfer market anyway, that they're always quite opportunistic but they give themselves the flexibility to be able to do that. Nothing's so rigid. I mean, you only have to look at elsewhere in the Premier League where teams are still kind of bashing down the same door that they have been for the past, 8 weeks. I mean, you look at United and Brian and Burma and things like that. Liverpool are a bit more flexible with what they want to do. So they obviously feel a degree of confidence that I think the Isak plays probably a little bit if they realise it's a little bit of a Hail Mary maybe and say, is there a chance to even open up a discussion about this? But in reality, I think they probably realised that the Ekitike ones, they didn't want Newcastle to make any great headway with that deal. So they've kind of headed it off very quickly to stop that progressing, whereby it causes potential disputes further down the line. So I think it's just a case of Newcastle went. They look back at the Diaz deal in that January. Liverpool moved after Spurs moved, didn't they?
Yeah, because Liverpool were thinking of buying him in the summer, and then of course they were like, "Oh, hang on, we better go and get him now."
And they did it then, and
a little bit with Gakpo as well. I think.
Yeah,
I think possibly Gakpo's got moved forward because they're so not very good at that point.
But they also had the leverage of they were smart enough to realise that Porto needed something like €8 million cash within 3 days to meet some debt obligations. So they were like, "Well, we'll pay that now before this deal's concluded." To get this over the line, so but yeah, I think it's just opportunism, and that's the benefit of kind of maintaining a smart transfer strategy that doesn't really, get dictated by anywhere else. It's just purely, Ekitike would have always been on the radar, but it's a case of they had to wait to be able to make their move, and because Newcastle have made that quite easy for them, but they've also by doing that kicked open the door to potential Isak deal, although that seems like it might be too tough to negotiate.
I think the interesting thing about the Isak thing now is that if Liverpool do, I can't see them signing both of them for the reasons that we just mentioned, but it means that they're now not going to be signing him, probably ever.
Yeah,
I think because if Ekitike ends up being a success, then there's no way that they're going to be spending massive money on another forward. So maybe this is kind of, if it goes through, it could be the end of the line for that particular move.
In terms of Isak, Doyle, do you not think? Do you think that would Liverpool make that move if they didn't suspect that he would want the move? And do you think they were testing the water to see whether he would push for it? Because I think it becomes a different story, doesn't it? If he starts pushing his end, then Newcastle's not for sale thing would have to change, wouldn't it?
Well, I wonder whether or not Newcastle might come back in with another bid for. I know at the moment they've stepped away. But then that depends on whether Isak's made any kind of agitation to move. This is the thing, is that I'm pretty sure if you had a choice between the two of them, you'd pick an Isak. That's not to say Ekitike is a bad player, because he's not, because they're literally the two most in-demand forwards in Europe, or younger ones that are in demand in Europe this summer. So Newcastle might just see it as a triumph if they keep hold of Isak. But the problem they got there then is that we're led to believe that he would have been happy to come. And now you've got a player there who, but he wouldn't be the first player in the world ever to like think, oh, I could have gone and moved somewhere, and then doesn't, and then just puts their head down and cracks on. Coutinho, for example, did that for 6 months at Liverpool, and that's the best he played. So maybe short term, Newcastle get a massive benefit out of this, but long term, they must know that unless they do something massive in the Champions League this season, that he's going to be gone. Then
I just wonder whether.
He's still not signed a contract either.
Exactly, yeah. If you're Alexander Isak and you're sitting now watching Liverpool then go and sign someone else, or getting close to sign someone else, Liverpool actually putting the ball in his court a little bit and going, well, if you want this move, you're going to have to start talking and telling Newcastle that you do want it because we're moving on.
But then I don't think they'd get as far down the road as actually agreeing personal terms with somebody then to turn around and say, oh, we don't really want you really, because that's really poor.
Yeah.
That would be really poor.
They don't tend to behave like that.
No, and to be fair, I don't think, if I'm being honest, it must have happened in the past, but clubs can't really get away with that these days anyway, because it also reflects poorly on them as a whole, where their transfer policy, because when other players could come in for them, then they'd be like, are you sure you actually want to sign me, or are you just using me for something else?
So Dave, lots of questions in the comments, and one that just jumped out to me immediately, and this is why you're here.
Is it?
Where does the money come from?
My hair is real.
Is his hair real? And can he take his top off? Is
he shaving all over?
Where does the money come from? I mean, it's quite simple, isn't it? But
we prefer doing the royal blue. It's largely because of I know whenever I say this, it always seems fairly. Can always be kind of divisive at periods during the past, but because Liverpool are financially managed well, they've been successful in recent years. Notwithstanding the Europa League season, which was quite impactful in the accounts, but they've given themselves the flexibility to be able to have significant PSR headroom. So, and it's not just about I put a tweet out the other day, and it was kind of suggesting what Liverpool could lose in this current financial year, which is 25-26, because Liverpool's financial year runs to the end of May. And it's upwards of 200 million. Now, that's not to say that's 200 million Liverpool have got to go out and spend, because what they'll be doing is, there's going to be exits this summer, considerable ones, whereby they're going to book quite a bit of profit. You've got the likes of Nunez, who knows, Diaz maybe, Harvey Elliott's still another player, which is on the periphery. They've pulled in money, pure profit from the Kwanzaa sale, but they've also got other, they're going to have to spend more money probably as centre-back as well before the start of the season. But the PSR works on a 3-year cycle, so it's still here for the foreseeable future. I mean, there's been talk about replacing it with kind of rules in line with what UEFA do, squad cost ratio rules, but for the time being, while Manchester City's legal case is still live, no one's voting on anything other than this set of rules. So it's a 3-year cycle. So
that'll be the same way for the next 50
years.
Yeah.
So when we're just kind of heads in glass, like frozen, that's just talking head like in The Simpsons.
Your torso will be frozen.
My torso will be frozen. My head will be chopped off and chucked in the bin. So it'd be so it's a 3-year cycle. So clubs are allowed to lose 105 million over 3 years. There are allowable deductions for depreciation of your assets, investment into infrastructure, community initiatives, the academy, the women's teams. All those things are allowed to be deducted. Now, we're on the cycle that Liverpool are on at the moment includes obviously 25-26, which is a financial year we're in at the moment. So that means 23-24, 24-25, 25-26. Now, in 22-23, they lost, I think it was 9 million, which is fairly modest sum. I mean, football in the main is just not a profitable enterprise for anyone other than kind of Manchester City, or if you're selling hotels, or women's teams if you're Chelsea. So,
you wish they could sell my car.
You'd have to buy it from yourself, though, wouldn't you?
You'd have to sell
it. Ian Doyle company.
just put a moustache on and this, that, and the other, and just turn up and buy it from yourself. So that drops off, but the way it works, and I don't want to try and make this needlessly complicated by
Yes, you do.
Digging come on. You're doing a good job so far.
That's why you're in a job.
Why do you think we invited you here?
I know.
Anyway, come on.
So you get a kind of a net PSR position at the end of each year. So it's your losses against your allowable deductions. So for that 7 that 9 million loss, Liverpool for that year had, I think, about 38 million in allowable deductions. So it gives them a net positive PSR position against that 105. So that 105 automatically increases because they were net positive, so they got more money. And now the issue for them that really pulled them back was they lost 57 million in 23-24, pretty much all attributed to the fact that they missed out on the Champions League and the revenue that comes with it. So, but their allowable deductions for that year were about 48 million. So, they've only lost their net PSR position for that year was actually a loss of 9 million against PSR. But when you consider looking ahead to 24-25, the financial year we've just finished, we won't know the results of that until early part of next year. However, using some fairly kind of rough estimates, you can probably assume that they will make a profit between 10 and 30 million. So using the middle point of that 20 million. So that 20 million profit, you still take into account an assumed 48 million in allowable deductions. So that then becomes 68 million net positive PSR position. And when you take all that into account and you think about they're in a season now, a financial year where they are back, they've generated great revenues from winning the league last year, the Champions League, because it was the first time they'd competed in the was it the revamp model last year? Which was more money. So
they finished top, didn't they? So
and they did really, even though they got knocked out in the round of 16, they still earned a lot of money because they had such a good campaign in the league phase. So there's that, and they also have a lot of good commercial deals which come on board. The Adidas deal will kick in for this year, so that's an uptick in revenue again. So, and they're likely to make the Champions League again, barring, I know it sounds daft to talk about that like right now before the start of the season, but it would, given the outlay that they're doing and how they've operated in the market, and looking back at last season and how they played under Slot, you would, there's kind of enough there to suggest that would be the absolute bare minimum for the requirement. So all of a sudden they wouldn't be expecting to make that huge loss, and their net PSR position is actually now well over 200 million. So, but that's not to say Liverpool want to lose that money. They don't, because also have to pay for these things. So transfers are amortized over a period of time. So it's capped at 5 years. So you sign a player, it's the guaranteed sum that the player is signed for, spread out over 5 years. Doesn't matter how that is paid, that comes out of cash flow. But the guaranteed sum, the add-ons are all come in as exceptional items during the life cycle of a contract. But with that increase in amortization costs, you also have a decrease in amortization costs because what's known as the book value of a player decreases year on year on year. So if a player is signed for 50 million and over a 5-year contract, that's 10 million amortization costs a year. But every year his contract runs down and stays there, that money drops off the amortization costs. So the only thing really Liverpool need to be considerate about is the wage bill, which will top 400 million this coming financial year, no doubt about it, because of the bonus payments within the Premier League, contract renewals, etc. So, but that's going to be par for the course. But in terms of amortization, Liverpool's amortization costs are about 114.5 million for 23-24. That's going to increase moderately for 24-25, but considerably for the year after. However, that 114 million against what you would look at Chelsea's is more than 200 million. Spurs is 170 odd million. So Liverpool are way below all these clubs that have, lower revenues. So they can make all this work quite comfortably, but they're making it work not by overstretching themselves. They're making it work because they can do it, because they kept enough dry powder through some periods when maybe they should have signed players, but they've waited and bided their time, and they've kind of been able to spend at a level where other teams have had to pull back and find other ways and means of doing things. So I think it's just kind of testament to the structure and the strategy, and that was, I think I managed to explain.
It's all really interesting, and it begs.
You can hit rewind and just go back to those period points.
A few follow-up questions.
Does anyone do that?
No. Well,
everyone's logged off. When was the last time we rewound a podcast?
I don't want Dory to sit here silent.
You do actually, yeah.
I
do.
But
just a quick. That's why I carried on talking more.
couple of follow-up questions.
Goodbye.
So does that mean that they can they could sign a Ekitike for 80 odd million. Let's just say for the argument's sake, pounds, but carry on this summer quite heavily.
Yeah, it does, and obviously, the less money they pay, the more money they can put to work elsewhere. But I think now with this deal, whether it's Isak or Ekitike, I think the focus will be immediately on trying to shift some players in this window, so they can. Because when you sell a player, you book the profit, all of it, straight away. It's not like signing a player which you spread out over time. Yeah. Now Nunez, if they sell him for, what did they pay for him?
It was up
65
65.
Yeah.
I think they probably put out about 75, 80 on him overall.
Okay, so I think he's got about 30 million of his book value left. So Liverpool have to clear that before they realise profit. So you'd
if
imagine
you're selling for 60, you're making 30.
They've got 30 million there, which is profit on the books, which is what they want really. They don't just want to. They're not looking to break even.
Is that why United, for example, the other year they sold McTominay because they could make a massive profit?
They made all that money. That was pure profit.
Because he came out of nothing. He came out of the academy basically. He didn't.
The same for why they're kind of confident in terms of their spend. Maybe not in this current financial year, but the following one, because they can sell Garnacho, Rashford. Only problem is the wages they offered were so high for underperformance, and that's when the problem comes. If you offer big wages and competitively players don't deliver, it's hard to sell those to move those players on for the same wages.
They'd have made quite big on Kelleher and on Quansah, and they're probably going to sell Tyler Morton, and they could sell Harvey Elliott.
And if they sell Diaz, I mean, what's he? 4 years, 3 years into a 4 year?
He's 3.5 into a 5.5. So
you'll almost be pure profit now at this point.
Pretty much. Given the money on offer, they make a handsome profit on him. So in essence, they could probably wipe out a lot of that. But also, it's how you pay for these things. So Liverpool, they have a revolving cash facility. Always makes me laugh because it's with NatWest, because it's like I bank with NatWest. It feels like they've got an overdraft plus this current account. They've got the current account.
Yeah, student account through NatWest.
But that's how they operate. So when money needs to be paid, they tend to they lean into that a bit more, because they don't carry lots of cash at the bank. Liverpool, one of the lowest in the Premier League actually in terms of cash at hand in the bank. I think last year it was like 7 or 8 million. But they have access to huge amounts of credit at low borrowing rates because they're Liverpool and they manage their finances efficiently. But that's how these things are paid. But what they'd rather do is have these sums paid by incoming cash from club sales. So I imagine that's how it will go this summer with the terms of a lot of sales. It's who can offer the biggest chunk up front in terms of kind of cold hard cash, so they can cash flow a few of their own signings a bit more efficiently.
So that was going to be another question, is when Liverpool are coming up against a club like Newcastle, whether they're trying to sign the same player or whether they're trying to sign a player from Newcastle. Liverpool surely have a distinct advantage in that Newcastle, if Newcastle had sold Alexander Isak to Liverpool, that would give them a boost in terms of PSR, but Newcastle don't have as much wiggle room, do they? And they have to sell a bit more than Liverpool.
Yeah, and it comes to a point, I know where they say there's no, there's a Alexander Isak is not a player who is completely irreplaceable for Newcastle, because if they're getting 150 million, say, in the market, that is money that, they paid, I think, 60 million for him, was it? He's been there 2 years. They'd make
He's been there more than 2?
Is he 2?
I think it's 3.
Three
now,
So
2022.
Make a huge profit on him. And if a club, if Liverpool, so they said to Liverpool, right, that's fine, but we want you to got to stump up 30 million up front straight away, cash that we need, because they got to fund their own transfer business. I think it eventually comes to a point where you look at what is better for the longer term in terms of, you're in the Champions League again, you're going to need a bigger squad to be competitive. You're going to need more good players. And they've been quite good at that, so you look at their squad, they've been good at that. So I wonder whether, I think at the right price is a deal to be done, but they'd have their own idea of what that price would be, because they'd have their own targets that they'd want to try and fill that gap with. What is it? It's sell one to kind of the Moneyball approach type of thing of make them all up in the aggregate, etc.
There'll be players Liverpool want to sell, but they don't necessarily have to sell, do they, this summer to make all these deals happen?
No. We were talking about the Quansah deal, weren't we, before? It seemed that was the only one that really strikes me as being
PSR driven.
A little bizarre, because it was he kind of felt like they still needed centre back of
Yeah.
a good quality.
Well, they're going to have to replace him
Yeah.
anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they will be signing. And then you've obviously got we were talking about it, you've got Canate, who, whether it's this summer or next summer, looks like he's going to end up at Real Madrid. And you've got Joe Gomez, who unfortunately he's been there, 10 years, and he's very, very injury prone. And that leaves you with Virgil van Dijk, who's almost as old as me, no matter how good he is. He's very much...
No one's that old.
Very much... very much... I'm ignoring that. Very
You realise
much-
you carry on getting older as they
funny.
do.
Yeah, I know,
They
I know,
haven't-
I'm just
you haven't
saying,
stopped.
yeah.
They're
Well,
not closing the gap.
Well, mentally, I suppose.
That's why
Emotionally.
he's so good with numbers.
Exactly, yeah.
So good with numbers.
yeah.
I can go.
You support
yeah-
Wrexham, don't you?
Come on, we don't want him to walk out.
Sorry, I feel
We don't want him to walk
that
out.
was a low blow. I apologise. I don't really.
Okay, well, look, we've got some good questions in. So let's move on to Diaz for a little bit, because lots of people asking what's going on with Diaz. Red has
How many?
asked.
6?
I actually I don't know how many that was. What's going on with Luis Diaz? Is his
7
agent
it
staring
was.
it up, or do you think he wants to go? We can hold him to his contract, but will that risk disrupting harmony in the squad? Is a pay rise out of the question? I feel
Okay,
like-
so do that question is, do I think? Okay.
yeah. Do you think?
I think
Yeah.
not knowing anything about anything, as some people might say now, is I think Luis Diaz would quite like to stay at Liverpool if he's given a new contract.
Yeah.
I think this doesn't mean that it's actually true. Liverpool are very reluctant to offer a big improved contract for somebody who's age 28 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that Luis Diaz, in my opinion, not based on, my feeling of the matter, is they'll never be able to clip this building. Is that I think he'll go if the right move if the right offer comes in, and I think the right offer might be something like 75-80 million pounds. Because don't forget if you're talking from a purely footballing point of view, if he's a left winger, he much prefers playing on the left wing, but quite clearly Gakpo is the preferred person on the left. Diaz did very well when he played, for the most part, playing down the centre. He actually became quite good at it towards the end. He scored a couple of goals purely from playing down the middle and knowing the position. But if Liverpool are signing Ekitike or Isak, and obviously it looks like it's Ekitike, that he's going to be playing, and that means that Diaz would get minutes in both roles, but he's probably not first choice in either of them. Now, I personally would keep him because I think he's been really good, and I think you need that kind of player, is what I think. But from a financial point of view, going to the world of Mr. Powell, is I think if Liverpool do get an offer that, well, I know for a fact, if Liverpool do get an offer that they deem as impossible to turn down, they will sell him.
I tend to agree. I think Liverpool are playing an interesting game with Diaz so that they can get a decent offer for him. But do you think it makes sense then Liverpool then go back to Newcastle and ask about Gordon?
I can't see that happening now. I think it was going to happen. It would have been last year.
Really? Because Newcastle will still need to sell players to help this PSR situation. If they keep Isak, he's their other big asset, isn't he?
I think they're less they've got quite considerable headroom now, although the years of heavy losses for this cycle now have dropped off, so they're in no need to sell. And that's the first time really that they're selling Longstaff to Leeds.
It's only about
He goes to
10,
Leeds?
12 million.
Yeah, but that's
Has he gone?
I think he is going.
Yeah. But, I mean, again, that's
Well, they sold Elliot Anderson,
that's
didn't they?
Yeah.
pure
And
profit to
they
the door.
sold
Anderson was
the
pure
guy
profit.
to Brighton. What was his name? I've forgotten already. He plays for Brighton.
Oh, Minte.
Yeah. So they've got, they've raised enough, raised some cash and pure profit. So, but even if they didn't really need to sell players, I mean, because they've got a fairly smallish squad as it is.
But if they, like you said earlier about their Champions League ambitions,
Well, they've signed a Langer, haven't they?
they will want to strengthen that squad and make it bigger, won't they?
Yeah, definitely.
So do they not have to sell players if they want to be ambitious?
Have to sell the right players, I suppose. I mean, the Isak one he undoubtedly improves their chances of whether it's Champions League football qualification again next season or doing well in the Champions League this coming season. But money can be kind of transformative in other ways, can't it? What was it last year? Villa sold John Duran, didn't they, for that huge sum in the January, and put it to work elsewhere. Didn't really work out.
Nearly did.
Yeah, but they played that game. But they're in I think Newcastle are conscious of the fact that they're back in the Champions League now, and they can't. The only way that you can close the gap on Liverpool, Manchester City, and everyone is by successive qualifications for the Champions League, which is what Arsenal did. So if you look back to 2016, Arsenal had been in Champions League no man's land for several years. And when was the last time? When was the first time they qualified under the first? I think it was like 2019, 2020 maybe. It'd been a few years. I think they'd had like 6 or 7 years out of the Champions League, and their revenues were so far down from everyone else's. Now they're not a million miles away from Liverpool. So I think it's Newcastle be trying to be forming part of that. But just to go back to the Diaz one, I wonder whether FSG kind of feel that they've done more than they would have wanted to from a keeping players older than the profile which they like at a football club by doing the deals they did.
Salah,
So if you're offering lengthy contracts to players who are going to be approaching 30 in 18 months or whatever, they're probably thinking that's not really, and they think they can do, there's options they can do in the market for less, which gives them some growth. So I think that's probably a...
Just as I've said before, is that I think Liverpool will just carry on with Diaz unless somebody comes in with a massive deal for him.
Yeah,
it's like the Trent thing, isn't he? He remains a very, very useful asset to the football club for as long as he's there. So, but until unless they probably feel that the value that they could get from him over the next couple of years, they're quite happy to see that.
Yeah, but it'll save them buying another player.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Do you if Diaz goes, could Rodrigo? A lot of people asking about him from Real Madrid.
It's just word names, and I'm sure they're looking at a load of players. Is the thing is that you just need a kind of an intermediary just to go up to somebody and say, "What about what's his situation here?" And then that's enough to become a story. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're massively in for him. It's the same. I've said this so many times. All the major clubs around the world are all aware of all the things that are going on. They may not all be aware of certain things like release clauses, like, for example, Alexis McAllister's one at Brighton a couple of years ago, which Liverpool did really well to know and then act upon. Was Endo? Was his release clause as well, wasn't it? I think.
I don't think it was a release clause, was it? I think they just
were able to. Well, Szoboszlai was definitely one. Yeah. Szoboszlai was definitely one. There's been a few others as well. So, Frimpong. But I think a lot of people, again, but most people knew about that one. But Liverpool were that far ahead of because they knew in advance that they were able to get ahead on that particular deal. So. Yeah, they all know about these players. Rodrigo, again, he might just want to stay. I mean, obviously with Liverpool, they did try and sign him when he was like 16, 17 in Brazil. So he's a player who quite clearly they have kept an eye on, because when these players move, certainly the younger ones, they don't just like forget about them. Like Gravenberch was one that they had an eye on for years, and there's other players like that. I mean, I wonder with Ekitike, although he was never really mentioned back in a year or 2 years ago, I wonder whether they'll have looked at him, because we've gone from, do you say Reem or Rem or what we say? Because it's Ren is Ren, but is it Reem or
I think it's
Reem?
Reem, I don't know.
Do you have any kind of French people at home
No.
that you could help us with that?
I don't think so.
So yeah, they went to he went to PSG and he scored. He played about 30 odd games, I think, maybe more than that. But so this is a lad who would have been he's been on the radar of a lot of clubs for a long time. So these don't just come out of the blue, especially when you spend an absolute fortune on them.
Some of the rumours feel Rodrigo's one that I look like and feel
it's an agency thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but Ekitike, I always felt like there could be something in that, just because he was the right age profile, sort of done their amount of, because Liverpool have these things, don't they, where they want them to have played the certain amount of games at a certain level. So I don't know. Some rumours. I think someone else has asked about Mateta, and Mateta just doesn't feel right to me. Mateta's 28.
Mateta's definitely low. Yeah. I think not that he's not a good player,
but you can tell straight away. He's past the age profile. He's not really the right profile of
the difference between Ekitike and Isak is that Isak is proven at the highest level, and Ekitike is not.
Yeah,
right, and that's why there's what was it at the moment, about 40 to 50 million euros discrepancy in terms of their valuations, and it's a lot of money to pay for a risk, especially when you've already done it once with Núñez.
Yeah,
if we have to say, because with Núñez, we know that he was obviously a decent player, and I still quite like it, but he was far more a Jurgen Klopp player. That he was a Jurgen Klopp buy than a transfer committee buy, which we've known that for a long time, has been outlined by what he did last season under Arne Slot, where the players remained exactly the same.
I mean,
but the way that they played the game was slightly different, and that, even though Núñez 90% of the time was fully committed to the way that he wanted the team to play, it doesn't bring the best out of him. And when you saw there's a couple of games, such as Aston Villa away, where he became massively disheartened after his miss, and then that's what happens. And to be fair to him, he didn't really. That was very much a one-off. He was totally, and he still is, because you saw him on Sunday scoring against Preston, but he's not the right player for that fit. And Liverpool can't afford to make another, not mistake, because you can't say it's a mistake. He won a League Cup, he got into the Champions League, and they won the Premier League, and he scored some important goals, so it's not as much a mistake. But if you're spending that much money, he's kind of on the lines that you've got to be very, very careful in what you're doing.
You pay a premium for the Premier League proven quality.
Yeah,
as
you
well.
can't.
Do you think there'll be a lot of add-ons in the Ekitike deal?
This is the thing: is that I'd love to know what Newcastle proposal involved. I'd love to know whether it existed.
Because Ekitike's profile reminds me a little bit of like when Sebastian Haller came to Premier League.
I was thinking Cisse, to be honest.
Like it's
it's quite scary thought for
but not as a player, but as kind of like
Haller
everything
came with
around
a huge
it.
reputation, then similar profile, physical profile. He came similar age, came from the Bundesliga. But you think if a player like him was on the market at this stage, now, then all the top clubs in Europe are going for him because his record was fantastic. But these things just don't work out, which is why that Isak carries a massive premium, because he's kind of demonstrable experience of putting the ball in the back of the net and brushing off defenders in the Premier League. So he's one of the few players in the Premier League I can remember over the past even 5 or 10 years genuinely looks like he just does things at will. Like in terms of like that's kind of that Haaland thing, just too strong for even some of the strongest and the best defenders you've got. He's just too.
One of the things I like about Isak is he takes shots on, doesn't he? When people aren't set, and he has a great knack of knowing when to take a shot on and when to get into the right positions. Obviously, scored a really good goal against Liverpool in the cup final, but
better goal in the league game,
and a better goal, yeah. But he's got that instinct, doesn't he? That I don't think all.
He'd be frightening in this Liverpool team.
Yeah. But what happens if Liverpool obviously go all in on him, Hugo? You see now you've got me.
I think we got
guessing myself.
Ekitike,
and then in a couple of weeks, Isak goes, you know what? I actually don't want to play for Newcastle. I want to go for it, because the whole thing he wanted to go to a team that's going to be competitive at the top of the Premier League and in the Champions League.
But that's why I think like Liverpool.
Arsenal. What would you do? How would Liverpool? This is just obviously me playing devil's advocate. But what
that's
if
a game Liverpool got to play, and also Arsenal are closing in, aren't they?
But they've still not
we
signed anybody.
We wonder whether that whole thing is kicking down. I wonder how much of it is Arsenal going, yeah, we'll sign this Gyökeres, but if something else, we don't want to do it too early because there's a chance that we might get a deal done for Alexander Isak.
But it's all one big game of chicken, isn't it? Because then you could say the same about Liverpool, but at some point you've got to try and get the deal done before someone, Newcastle come along and sign.
This is the thing. So it's what
really
feedback
intriguing.
are they getting? You would assume that Newcastle absolutely just said, look, we're not selling him.
Yeah. I mean, someone whose name I can't say on a family podcast, but it's their name involves a bank which that you don't cover. So they said they'd be happy to see Rio and Gamoa have a chance behind Gakpo. Do you think there's a chance of that? Because he is very highly rated.
He's played about, 60 minutes, 45 minutes for the first team against Accrington Stanley. And I know he's only 16, he's only 17. Is it next month or later on this year? Certainly within the next 12 months, he's going to be 17. I had a feeling it was going to be that. I had a feeling,
I used to bank
when
them
you were
years
a
ago. I left
Yeah.
When
you were a student, you had your other student.
I met a student.
Stephen Killen said something that isn't very interesting as well. So
who said that?
Stephen Killen has.
But
Rio and Gamoa, you think?
I think it's far too early for that. I'll be honest. Yeah. I think if he can get us, we mentioned this. Funny enough, when you were not here. We mentioned this in the last pod, or one of the last pods, where we said that he, in fact, it may have just been on Monday. It says play him in some League Cup games, depends on the draws that they get in the League Cup and the FA Cup. He could possibly be on the bench for some Champions League games towards the end of the group stage, and he might get some run-outs from the bench in the Premier League. And at that age, if that's what he gets over this season, while getting further exposure to the under-21s, which he only started playing for a couple of months ago, then fine, because he's got loads of years ahead of him.
Feels a season too early to be going on loan to anywhere because it's you're putting lots of minutes in young legs there, but you kind of think that might be.
But also, he's 16, 17, and he'd be uphold and go somewhere else. You know what I mean?
See
Well,
that-
I've just found out that you can vote now if you're 16, or you'll be able to. So
You can go on loan to Getafe when FSG.
Yeah.
see that little clip of him in training taking the ball past. I can't remember who it was, but he does look. It was only a small clip, and you don't know the rest of the session, but it looked like he belongs, you know. And I think that
But he turned for the last
That's
minute, and they've
interesting.
been playing for 3 hours. It's like,
that
absolutely
could be
shattered.
that. Yeah. Couple more questions for you then, Dave. Somebody's asked, why is Liverpool's kit deal so modest in comparison with the 100 million season deal signed by Man City?
The way kit deals are structured is it's so nuanced and varies because Liverpool, yes, they have also the numbers reported are often almost always wrong. The City's one has kind of been leaked out. It's a 10-year deal, whatever, 100 million a year, 1 billion. Liverpool opted to go for a 5-year deal because they like to revisit the market every 3 years or so. Because guess what? Inflation happens and the market changes. So what might be good at getting £100 million in 2025 might be a rubbish deal in 2030. You know, so but Liverpool's flat fee with Adidas, which is, obviously they had that deal with Nike where it was 35 million, and they got a handsome 20% of royalties on top of the sale of LFC merchandise. But they still get kickbacks from Adidas on the sale of merchandise as well, so it'll be pushed well over, you're looking more 80 million plus, once everything's taken into account. But also it's the ability to sell at scale and deliver at scale and produce products which people want as well, So Puma's is their biggest client's Manchester City, and that's it.
Yeah.
They've got other teams they cover, yes, but I mean, in terms of their biggest client, who they
you're
have,
stuck with Puma making your kits for 10 years, aren't you?
it's
Shade of Puma.
so they're willing to forego getting involved in the market with everyone else to kind of go in heavy on Man City. So, Manchester United did a 10-year one with Adidas for 900 million, but again, you are thinking, right, this deal's going to be good for us for the next 10 years when it might not be great in 5 years.
Yeah.
So Liverpool could have signed a 10-year deal for amounts certainly in line with what United have done, but they'd like to be a bit more kind of nimble when it comes to the market for that. So it's still a great deal, and their commercial revenues speak to that, really, the fact that they'll grow again this year and next year. And I think that the Nike deal never really felt like a great fit, whereas the Adidas one, because of the nostalgia and the merchandise they can tap into, I think they'll sell more as a result globally. And that means they'll earn more money from it in that respect.
Couple of questions for you each before we finish off. Quick one for you, Doyle. Do you think Liverpool, after, let's say, Ekitike gets done, do you still think they'll sign another striker after that? And do you think they'll sign a centre-half?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, interesting. Do you think the types of profiles, maybe if the striker would be like...
A bit cheaper.
Yeah.
Centre-back's an interesting one. I think they'd probably have to get in somebody that's going to be playing now, but also for the future as well. Mm-hmm. And as you can tell by the way I'm using my finger, that's the circle of life.
That's
the Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah. What's the next line? I don't actually know. Ian,
no.
do you know? What's the second line of the Circle of Life song? No, he's hopeless. No. Right.
And one final one for you. I remember sitting here last summer doing this podcast. A lot of angry people that Liverpool had signed one player, or most of the summer didn't sign anyone because they signed Chiesa so late. Does it feel like FSG have played a bit of a blind, or have they just got kind of lucky? It's an interesting two ways of looking at it, I suppose.
I don't think anything's luck. I think, what's that really corny phrase that people use about
just
luck?
It's the leap of faith. It's the band of hope. There you go. Right.
Luck finds you where hard work puts you, or something like that. So,
sorry, what is it again? Sorry,
is it luck finds you where hard work puts you? I think that's right. I can tell you that the
I'm going to
put it on here
former golfer,
my topless photo.
The former golfer Gary Player once said, "The harder I work, the luckier I get."
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. Play on player.
Yeah.
Player. Anyway. I've lost the thread of the conversation. Anyway, Fenway Sports
welcome
Group.
to the podcast.
I mean, the hiring of Slot wasn't the luck. I mean, they hired someone like they did with Klopp that was able to work with. Or Klopp's was slightly different because they allowed him to kind of mould what was coming, but they were under the strategy they wanted. Whereas Slot, they had the players, but they wanted him to continue in that vein, but take it in slightly different directions with the way they played, which they have done and they've succeeded. So they won the league last year at a canter, really, would you say? They kind of, the last few weeks was kind of it's like end of term in school, you know, it's like they got the board games out.
Non-uniform day?
Non-uniform day, you know, there's they're allowed you to wear brown Rockports to school. You know, one lad's cut his tie, all that, you know.
Was that the trend in Wales?
Yeah, it was actually.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I looked down at the comments and I've taken one because I thought it was a good question for Dave. And I've looked up again and you started talking about Rockports at school.
Anyway.
And I don't know why.
Anyway. No, they've not been lucky. I think they are... whenever I talk about them, I'm always kind of seen as being some kind of shill from or something. But they are...
We all are, don't we? Join the club.
They are they've proven themselves to be the best owners in English football.
Oh.
And that is a fact.
There you go. I really want to finish on that, but Barry McLaughlin's asked a good question, so we will continue for one more question for Dave. He says, where are the revenue increase opportunities for FSG Liverpool? Will the Club World Cup be the main option, or will the club look at their own live TV deal in the future, or to charge fans directly? It's just quite an interesting question.
The Club World Cup will be here to stay for a prolonged period of time, but there is no way that FIFA will run the risk of the likes of Liverpool and United not being involved in some way, shape or form. So guess what? That's European Super League, but they'll just throw in a few of the SPL teams. I don't mean Scottish Premier League.
What do you mean?
Kilmarnock at the Saudi Pro League.
Oh, sorry. I did think that SPL, just in my brain, that just says Scottish Premier League, yeah.
Because it's going to be huge revenue generator. I mean, Chelsea earned more than about 100 million from this little summer sojourn to the US, and also in terms of additional revenues, the broadcast rights are a challenge moving forward. Domestically, they are hitting a plateau, and they will decline because privacy will impact subscriptions, which impacts how much broadcasters are able to pay. Internationals markets are still climbing. But eventually it comes a tipping point where broadcasters can't continue to pay more money every year. So it becomes onus will be on the Premier League, which has 20 shareholders, which are all the clubs that are members, to create a streaming platform, whether it's Premflix or whatever. So either way...
Premflix? You didn't think of that yourself?
Simon Jordan did, actually. I just stole it, sorry.
God.
Quickly trademark it before Simon does.
Is that with an X?
Yeah,
okay, just checking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just checking.
Absolutely.
Because you could do it both, then you'd be able to
You
cover
could,
yourself. Yourself.
You're paying for additional letters there, aren't you? But yeah.
It's not on lineage.
Just can you wrap this up?
Signing Isak.
We've got work to do, come on.
Anyway, so that will be a play for the next 10 years, but the Premier League deals are tied up for ages now, so that's not going to be an immediate consideration. But like Tom Werner said a few weeks ago, didn't he, about the global reach of Liverpool and how important, how much storytelling is important to building audience. Doing more of that will be key to them.
Right, we're going to wrap it up. My LFC scrapbook says, do you remember, does Ian Doyle have email? I'm not going to give Ian Doyle's email out. All I can say, if you want to email me, joe.rimmer@reachplc.com, and we all have similar email addresses.
Yeah.
No, so you can work it out.
Just make sure you email Joe.
Ian.doyle@reachplc.com. We will leave it there.
At reachplc.com.
Thank you very much.
You can get him on his phone number. No.
Thank you all very much for listening. I think we'll be back on Monday when Paul Gorst flies out to Hong Kong to follow Liverpool's tour in Hong Kong and Japan. Dave, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed that,
Great to have you on.
I enjoyed that, yeah.
Let's make it a more regular thing, please.
Rose between two thorns.
Yeah, more regular.
Yeah.
You're going to be here more regularly.
I'd like to be.
Yeah.
You will be
invited.
Yeah. And Ian, thank you very much.
Thanks. Hi, Joe. Thanks, Joe. No one ever thanks you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. You're doing a good job hosting.
Host for the most.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Big.